So we're able to get the roof fixed on the bank barn. We have it repaired now, and the back building, the roof has been repaired on it. So we lucked out. We were given the information of a contractor from another vendor at one of the farmers markets that we set up at. We got a hold of that contractor. They came out and gave it a look. And basically with their work schedule, they gave us an estimate that it would be done by October 15th of 2022, just because of how booked up they were. But we lucked out. The weather wasn't cooperating with them on another project that they were doing. And so they called us and said, hey, we're going to be there this afternoon. They ran and started getting some lumber, showed up here and started on it. They were here for about another 2.5 days, got everything wiped out. Everything looked really good, made a lot of progress every day, but they were able to save as much as they could of the original barn structure. So they looked at the whole structure, looked at all those beams, and only one of them needed some of the parts replaced. So they lopped off the bad sections, put new lumber up there, and went to work. We're really happy with the final product. We're really glad, and we're hoping to be able to get a lot of use out of this bank barn still for many years to come. So overall, we really got lucky. This barn was done sooner than expected. What hay that had been baled that we had gotten by then was all round bales, and those were stored in the lean-to. And the square bales we just left on wagons sitting in the barn at our house and shoving them in the lean-to over here. That way they stayed out of the weather. But we were able to get this barn completed. Now we got to get all that stuff unloaded. So we did have insurance on the barn and on the whole farm in general, and the insurance ended up basically just covering the roof for us. You can see we still have our downspouts up on here, but there's no gutters on the barn right now. That's something that we're going to have to cover, and going forward we plan on getting that done. It's just that the contractor so far back on his schedule that basically we were just needing the roof done, and if they could get here and get that done, then they can come back at a later date, put the gutters on as needed. So I'm not really sure when that's going to happen, just because we kind of left it up to going into winter. It might not be until next spring. Another thing we need to do is finish fixing these doors. When that storm came in and I've created a vacuum and pulled the roof off the barn, it actually shoved these doors up onto this concrete landing, and there's a groove there that the doors ride through that concrete. So it kind of kinked the railing up there that it rides on. So one of the doors is really hard to open and close, and it really beat up the bottom of these doors because they're wood and old. So what we're going to have to end up doing is probably building new doors for this and hanging them on some new hardware. Again, going into winter, it was more important to us just to get this barn done, so that way we get hay in there and stored, and then these are other things that we're going to work on as we go. Another thing that we're running into, all the electric for this farm runs into this barn, into a breaker box, and then disperses out to the lean-to and to the other barn. So actually we have everything shut off right now other than the water pump and the lean-to, just because a lot of the electrical wires were running along the roof of this barn when it got ripped off for lights. So those have all been ripped apart. The insurance wasn't going to cover new wiring. That's something that we're going to have to do. So again, we just capped all those, shut off all the electric to them, and we decided that it's just going to be easier for us to run all new electrical wiring throughout the barn, putting outlets where we need them at and lights where we need them at, because some of the electrical wiring that was still in this barn was a cloth wire. So we're just going to update the whole system, and again, probably just going to push that off until in the winter time for a project or next spring. So it's really nice having the bank barn roof finished. That's one less worry that we have. Took a lot of stress off of us, because we know now we're going to be able to start storing hay over here, and that was one hassle we weren't wanting to deal with, of where we were going to put all the hay out we needed. And we actually got a wagon here, so we need to start getting stuff unloaded right now, but we still have cleanup over here to do. We've been scraping all this stuff up off the floor, getting as much of the debris up as we could, because there was a lot of rain in here during the time the roof was off. So all this hay got wet, stuck down the floor. We've been scraping it up. And the problem is we were just gonna go out and spread this until when we started the cleanup in here, we noticed that this hay also still has a ton of nails and stuff in it. So with a quick magnet search of the area, this is what we came up with out around where that pile was at. And so that's what I said, we just got to throw it over and store it out of the way, and we'll actually end up putting it in the hole when we bury all the rest of the debris. And so we have this area cleaned up, but because we're getting ready to put some hay down, it's still super dusty. And one thing we wanted to do, just as an extra precaution for ourselves and to help keep the quality of the hay that we're putting in here, we actually have some plastic that we want to lay down, just a roll of plastic, put down, basically make a barrier between the hay and the dust that was wet, that was left on the floor that we can't get up right now, and the new hay. And so what we're going to do is lay it out in here, and I have some roofing nails, and I'm going to tack it up here against the wall. That way we can find the nails when we go to take it down, and I can pull those and we'll re-inspect the floor again at that time. So that piece of plastic fit this area really well. It was a 15 by 25 foot piece. The only thing I had to cut to get around is that leg there, and 2 cuts, and it fell right into place. I'm not too worried about this plastic holding water or anything like that because the floor is not really level in this area. Water will drain off of it. I know there'll be some holes ripped in it by the hay down on it and stuff like that. It's mostly just a barrier between whatever mold and dust that is left here that we weren't able to get up and the new hay. So this load went in here pretty good. We got it all stacked up. I was throwing it off the wagon over to Rachel. This plastic really wasn't sliding around as much as I thought it would with the bales hitting it, but once we got a couple layers down, everything seemed to be going okay. That was holding it pretty well. I set some bales up down this end just to kind of be like a weight on it. Like I said, it went pretty good. We got another 3 wagons to unload and stack in here. So once we got that cleanup done and got that plastic laid down, we got in here and started stacking hay. On this side of the barn, we stack all our second cutting hay. We kind of keep it separate from the second and third cutting. That way we know we'll start feeding out of this and basically work our way all through the second cutting and then jump over to the third cutting and feed that last. And it makes it really easy for us just because what we end up doing is we back a wagon in here. On this side of the barn's the second cutting, on that side is the third cutting. And all throughout the winter, basically we use these wagons as our own hay mount over at the barn at our house. So we'll pull in here and put about 2 weeks to a month's worth of hay on here, just depending on the weather. Put some straw on here that we need, take it over, park it back in the barn at our house. That way it's easy to get to. We have plenty of hay and straw there to get us through any kind of weather event going through the winter, but the majority of the hay is stored over here out of the way, and then that way it frees up a lot of storage there at our house. And over the last few years, this system has worked out really well for us, especially this moving the hay back and forth. You just got to dedicate a little bit of time once a month just to load up your hay needs and straw needs and get it moved back over there to the other barn. But really it makes it really convenient because there's not a big block of hay stacked in the barn over at the house, kind of in the way, because we're in and out of there so much with different pieces of equipment, moving stuff in and out of there constantly, that if we had to dedicate one corner to a big stack of hay, it would kind of get in the way. But overall, we're really happy that the roof got fixed. Really happy we have plenty of hay storage going into this winter and plenty of hay to feed to the animals. But overall, this barn and this roof was a major stress factor all summer. Constantly worrying about what are we going to do, where are we going to store hay and straw at. Just because, like I said, there really wasn't that much extra room at the barn and at the house. It's not really set up for hay storage. We were going to have to figure out if we're going to bring in pallets, lay them down. We were going to buy a couple old semi-trailers and bring them in, or shipping containers. Then you have that cost, and then once you get them set into place, they're kind of just there. You know, like I said, it was really stressful. Just took a lot of time and energy getting to this point, mostly also because we couldn't really find a contractor. Everybody was so booked up and busy, and that this required some work, and that, you know, it was just hard to get fit into their schedule. And a lot of them were telling us it was going to be November or December by the time they could get here. And again, the only reason why this is done now is because they weren't able to continue with the other project they were on because of the weather. But I'm really happy with the final product. It looks really good. I think it's going to work well for us going forward. But that's going to wrap up this video. Thanks for watching.